Hello everyone and welcome back to Aveste Origins episode 5. Today we are joined by an amazing guest, Sarah Akwisombe. Sarah is a streetwear designer and the owner of Not That Deep Clothing, a brand that we have on Aveste, so you must check them out. She is also a serial entrepreneur and a best-selling Sunday Times author of a book called The Money Is Coming. We're going to talk about how Web3 could change streetwear forever, hypnosis, meditation, how Sarah's learning Korean, spirituality, the purpose of NFTs, and how she created Not That Deep Clothing. So let's go straight into it.
Have you ever been hypnotized?
Yeah, like with her loads of times.
Really?
And then when I had with both daughters, I did hypnotherapy with like hypnobirthing or whatever they call it with both. It's not what you think.
Wow.
Explain hypnobirthing.
Yeah,
it's not.
Let's get into this.
Yeah.
Okay, hypnobirthing is like, it's literally just about trying to put yourself in a really relaxed state so that you don't freak out and so that obviously you can like breathe through the pain. That's basically it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did it help?
No. I guess to an extent, like I think you can keep yourself like calm for longer.
Yeah.
But obviously it's still painful. So yeah. But yeah, because she's a hypnotherapist and she's like literally my best friend, she will often just be like, if I'm going through something, I'm having a hard time with something, she'll like write me a little like script and then like read it out. It's really good. Mm.
Or just like she'll give you a call or you'll meet up. And
no, we can like, if we're hanging out.
Yeah.
So we'll like have a chat about like what it is, and then she'll be like, oh, does it have a feeling or does it have like a colour if you think about it? It's all like kind of symbolic.
Yeah.
And then she'll just kind of, it's not like, oh, you get put under. You're just basically listening to something really relaxing, like what we were just saying.
Because that's what I think people think of when they think of hypnotherapy. And you've seen things on people going on stages and performing strange actions when they've been put under by like Darren
rubbish.
Brown when he
It's
clicks his
rubbish.
fingers and then they're suddenly under. So yeah, when I think of hypnotherapy, that's what I think of.
Yeah,
But
it's not that.
It's not that.
It's not that at all.
Does that exist or is that all just rubbish?
I think that's just completely made up.
It's just
I
complete.
think that's just telly. It's
That's
not real.
TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be a chicken ever.
No, that's exactly. I remember.
I'm
that
actually
too.
like anti-hypnosis, like as in like I'm actively like I'd never want to be a chicken for God's sake. Please.
because of that.
Yeah.
Well, that she's always saying, she's like all that stuff in like the 90s or whatever. It's like really put like the idea of it is just completely.
Ruined hypnotherapy.
Yeah, it's just complete misconceptions, the whole thing because of that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I want to ask you about something because Jake and I want to do this. Have you ever done flotation tanks?
No.
Are you interested in doing it?
Yeah, are we going together or?
No.
Like, yeah, sure, let's go, guys.
As in, like, I think for us, because for us, right, we're always listening to these shows and they're going like flotation tank is transcendental, like you can like completely switch off and relax.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in like trying.
Yeah,
it.
I haven't done it, but I've got friends that have done it and they said they really like it.
Really?
Yeah, because I think it's like the perfect temperature, isn't it? So you just sort of like feel like you're floating.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's full
Yeah.
of salt too, so it's like you
Yeah.
feel weightless and you're just suspended in this kind of like animation.
We were saying it would have to be guided though, because like we would like struggle to like switch off. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, maybe they do
Yeah.
something, or maybe
Yeah.
because it's just dark and you've sort of got nothing else to like look at.
yeah.
You're just like staring.
And there's
into the sky.
no audio, and,
No.
and yeah. I'm
Yeah.
interested.
I'm up
interested in
for
giving
it.
a
I
go.
definitely want to try it.
Where did we find one? There was one in London
Vauxhall,
Bridge
I think.
or
Vauxhall,
Vauxhall.
can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do it for Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might have some realizations about life.
Oh, don't. They were saying like because you can book like 2-hour slots, and they were like, don't do 2 hours your first time. And
No,
that,
I
like,
feel like I could barely probably do 10 minutes.
I know.
I'd be like,
Yeah. What is going on here? Yeah. I don't know. Like, would you feel claustrophobic? Do you think doing it?
that would be my concern because I'm quite claustrophobic. But friends have done it and they said it doesn't feel like that. It feels quite, because I guess you get in it's quite big
Yeah.
inside. So
Yeah.
maybe not.
Is it pitch black in there or is there some kind of like ambient lighting?
Maybe there must be.
I think there are some ambient lights, but that's sort of like your guardrails. That's
Sure.
like bowling with the walls up.
I see what you mean.
You know, so I think they say like go pitch black because you're meant to be no sight, no audio, and then
And then you
floating,
start
so you've got no
hallucinating.
touch. Yeah, so you're sort of-
Hopefully.
yeah. Jake
maybe.
wants to be completely tripping in the.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Eat an
Without having to
edible
take
before
any.
you go in and then see what happens.
Oh my god, that would be pro mode.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. That's like a year down the line.
Yeah. In terms of like what you do in like your daily practice, like both manifesting, like meditation, things like that. What is like your daily routine? Like,
I don't really have one. No.
No.
Like I'd say like if I can feel that I'm getting a bit like pessimistic about like the world, because obviously like with everything going on at the moment and news and everything, it's just like a lot.
Yeah.
So I feel like if I can feel myself getting a bit pessimistic, then I will watch like 10-15 minutes of Abraham Hicks in the morning on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because there's just so many videos.
Yeah.
Which is just like a kind of old school manifesting, like law of attraction kind of thing. That's probably about it. And then I do like a bit of tarot cards and stuff like that for myself sometimes, but I definitely don't have like a practice.
No.
I'd love to have one. I should be a bit more disciplined.
Yeah, like a daily like wake up, because I know a lot of people at the moment are sort of waking up, having just even 10 minutes as part of their sort of wake up routine, just to sort of
I have
centre.
2 kids, so
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was going to say, there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, up until 9 a.m. it's like like chaos going around the house. So there's like no chance.
Yeah, back in the day, would you say like you were able to do that more before you had kids, or has that come later in life, like your sort of interest in meditation?
Yeah, I was probably more. I did do some things, and I like would read things and stuff like that. But I think you just, as you get older, I think you become more self-aware. You become more aware of like when you're having bad days, when you're having good days. Yeah. So I don't know. I can't remember a time before children. It's a long time. That was a long time ago.
Remind us how old your children are as well.
My eldest is nearly 10, and the youngest is 3.
Wow. Josh and I we've got a long list of things to talk to you about today, Sarah. And
go for it.
Look at the fact you've got children as well. And we're like, how on earth does she pull all of these different things off? Should we start with Not That Deep? I think that would be the best place to start, wouldn't it? So for people that don't know what Not That Deep clothing is, tell us what it is.
Well, it's a little streetwear brand. It's basically like my little... I hate the word side hustle, but it's like it's just my little side fun creative project. I think like I sort of know in my mind that it would be really difficult for me to make it something that is going to be like the business, that is my business, and is going to be like, oh, I'm going to make loads of money off it. It's going to be really successful, because I think it's so difficult. Like fashion, streetwear, like any kind of product business, I think is really hard.
Totally.
But I love just being able to go, oh, I feel like making this design, or, if I can't find something that I want to wear, or, it's just like a chance to explore ideas that I've got in my head, really.
Yeah. If you can't find something, just make it for yourself.
I mean, I said that, and I sort of then was like, that's really stupid, because in the world, there's definitely clothes that like I would wear that I wouldn't need to make the thing that I want. But it's more just, I guess I've always been quite creative. And so I've always loved clothes. I've always loved streetwear. I've always like dressed a certain way, even before it was really like, obviously streetwear, tracksuits, trainers, like this is just such a normal part of like our everyday wardrobes now. But when I was like 15, that wasn't what everyone wore.
Sure.
And like to be a girl wearing like a tracksuit, a big baggy tracksuit and trainers like everywhere, I'd never wear heels, like it wasn't the norm.
Sure.
And so I've kind of just always loved it, and I've always felt my most confident and most myself in like a big baggy tracksuit and trainers. So to me it's just kind of like I love it. If there's a chance to make something that is my own within it, and then like try and challenge myself to like do something a bit more interesting or make it more sustainable or something like that, then it's just like a fun project basically.
Love it. And people are clearly liking the stuff as well. We spoke to Billy yesterday, who loves the green sweater.
Yeah.
People are clearly receiving it quite well as well, which must feel nice, right?
Yeah, I think so. It is nice. I mean, I've kind of, because of the different businesses that I've had before, I do know what that feeling of like everyone really like being into what you're doing and like that take up feels like. So it's kind of weird, because I guess for any other like startup fashion or streetwear brand, they'd be like, oh my God, but you're selling and people really like it. You got like this amount of followers, which isn't loads by any means. Like, but to me, I'm kind of like, oh, it's just like, it doesn't feel that big. It doesn't really feel like comparatively to like the successes I've had before. But But it's much more just about like personal fulfillment, really.
Sure, it's your creative outlet. And would you say it's your main creative outlet at the minute?
Yeah, I think so. Like I'll make bits of music like here and there because that's like where I started. But then I do that with my brother, and it's really hard for us to like make our schedules like work together. So we kind of go through like 6 months where we'll like make loads, and then we have like another 6 months where we do nothing. But yeah, what else do I do? And then I think I love learning. So I'm learning Korean. I love playing chess. So I want to like learn about how to play chess. I love Formula 1. Like there'll just be all these other little things that I'm into lots of things. And I think people don't really, they're like, what are you? I don't get it. Like you just.
I'm everything.
Tomorrow you're really into this. And then that last week you're really into that. And I'm just like, well, so like, what's wrong with that?
Yeah. But you can obviously spread yourself too thin. Do you struggle with that, would you say? I
don't struggle with it personally because if I like things, I don't find that I feel like I'm spreading myself thin. Sure. Like I love it. So I'm like into it. But there's definitely like a perception issue. Like when you do lots of things, or you've done lots of things in different fields, or you've had like varying successes in different things, like people don't really they don't know where to put you. And I feel like that's just been the story of my life. Like even from when I was doing music, it was all different genres, and it would be like this type of tune and then that type of tune and then that, and people didn't really know where to put me. And that's kind of just continued like through my life. Like I've done so many different jobs. Like I find it so hard to make a CV or like my LinkedIn profile. I'm like, oh well, I can make this pattern of my work history if I want to look like I do marketing. If I want to look like I'm a creative, then I can pull all these other different things I've done. If I want to look like I'm more in education, I can pull all these different things that I've done. So I think it's quite hard because I'm constantly having to be like, oh, who am I talking to today? And like, what pattern do I make out of all the things that I'm interested in? Yeah, that sounds bloody weird. Challenging, but... Well, it's not my problem. It's like everyone else's problem. But if I want like, if I want to, say like today, if I've met you guys before, I feel like I can be quite honest, we can be quite open, we can talk. But if I was here, like, I've got to push my streetwear brand, I've got to be really streetwear, I've got to talk about all my creative things, then I'd have to think about, like, what things do I talk about and then what do I edit out? Sure. Do you know what I mean? Like, you guys, lucky people just get everything. Yeah. ASMR and all. Yeah. I'm glad we started with that. You don't have to be interested in something forever either. You can just love something for a year and then be good at it and then not do it again. But people really don't get that. Or maybe we're starting to, and I think, we're talking about Lex Fridman and like even like Joe Rogan and all these kinds of podcasts that are longer format, and they are talking to people in a more in-depth way about their views on the world, their political views, what they're personally interested in, their personal journey. Like we are starting to hear these like more interesting stories of like well-rounded people, but it is, most people do seem to just respond to like oh, you're a beauty influencer, so you need to just do that. And as soon as you do something a bit different, whether that's algorithmic or how people respond, like I think it's still too early to know. But like it never resonates in the same way. Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's good to taste a lot of things as well, especially when you're young. Just try stuff, man. I don't think people do enough of that as well. So I'd always encourage people, just taste stuff, find out what you do like and don't like. And yeah, I really agree. Going back to your personal following though, do you think that people are following you because you have all of these varying interests, or do you think you built that following originally because you were doing one thing at a particular time, or because you've got a very big following? Well, you say that. It's not that big, like, comparatively to, like, obviously people on social media or YouTube or whatever. Like, it's like a micro following. But I think there's certain things I did that obviously because of the timing of the social media. So I think there's a lot of people that initially followed me because of interior design. Yeah. Because that was the time where all the algorithms hadn't kicked in and it was like new Instagram and people were just like, oh, there's an interior design person or there's a fashion person. So I think there's a lot of that. I think because I've been on social media for like quite a long time, there are people who have then just seen all the different things that I've been interested in, and then they're like, oh, this is actually really cool. Or they kind of follow me because they like my sort of viewpoint, or like I used to be really open with kind of like my opinions and like all that sort of stuff on social media. I don't do that at all now. A little bit. And so I think there's like a really interesting core group that just do kind of like me for me, but I definitely don't think it's like the majority. I think that like if you know, now I'm like, if I post stuff on Instagram, it's such a small, I mean, this is everyone's problem, right?
Yeah.
But it's such a small amount of people that will resonate with it.
Yeah.
Because I think if you don't post something that they followed you for, i.e. like a beautiful room, they don't even see it. So, yeah.
Do you think people are following Not That Deep for the brand itself, or do you think they've come in originally for you? Like they're interested in your story and then they've gone and followed the streetwear brand that you've created?
I think, again, there's like a few of them.
Yeah.
I think probably the majority have just seen... That was the idea when I started Not That Deep, was like, don't make it about me. I don't want it to be about me.
Yeah.
I do want it to be like people either like the aesthetic or they like kind of what the brand's about. And so they'll follow it for that. But the problem is when you don't have loads of people working for you and you don't have like endless budget for UGC and all this kind of stuff, you do end up as the owner having to make a lot of content.
Yeah.
And it ended up being back in that point where I was like, I have to tell the story of how I'm building this business because I don't have the money or the resource to go and do loads of shoots or like content. And like, I sort of realised that again, like in the last couple of months, and I've basically haven't posted anything on any of the Not That Deep like socials for a couple of months because I was just like, the whole point was for me to get away from it, and I've ended up being pulled back in because it's like an easy, quick win. Oh, like, hey, I'm building my brand, I'm packing packages, but I'm like, that's not building a brand, that's just like building my brand again, and like that's really what I'm trying to avoid. So I'm at this point trying to work out how we do it going forward. Like if we don't have the money and we don't have the resources, what would it look like? Or is it just a case of, like every couple of months I do like, I make a new t-shirt and I just put it on sale and I sell it. And maybe I sell 30 and that's fine because that still satisfies like my creative need.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of this working out, especially like when you're the only, you know, when you're the person running the business and you don't have a team, it's like you're constantly playing around with these like brand strategy ideas or like concepts about like, what's it going to be? Who's it for? Am I a part of it? Am I not a part of it? How do like just all these kinds of things. And then you're met again with like, what resources do I have and how do I actually make that happen? So at the moment, I just left it.
That's the easiest way, right? Just leave it.
It'll
still be there when you get back.
It was just getting too stressful. And I was like, look, it's never going to make enough money for me to like live on right now. So like, I hate the feeling of waking up every morning and being like, I need to make content today. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't feel like it some days. And I think I used to be really able to just churn out content no matter like what I was going through or what I felt like. I'd just be able to like sell. But now I'm just like,
yeah. Do you think people see through it? Like that sort of content when you are just posting stuff every day because you have to. Do you think people see through it?
I think people see through it, but the interesting thing about like sales psychology is people will be like, oh God, this is so salesy, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, but you'll still look at it and you'll still open it if it's got the right hook or it's saying the right things or it's addressing a problem that you've got or a pain point that you've got. You might not like it, but you're going to still open the thing. It's like those, you know, like those things you get on Twitter or whatever. And it's like, where is this teen star now? And you're like, I literally don't care. Yeah. But you end up just being like, I'm just going to click this thing. Like, it's literally that. Yeah. We're so simple as people to sell to.
Yeah, we are.
And we all can see through it all the time, but
a lot of what you're consuming is just mindless as well. Like when you're on those platforms, like you are just mindlessly doing, like there's a sales side of it, but then there's also just like a mindless scrolling. And so some videos just get viewership because they're like frictionless. Do you know what I mean? Like you're just watching it because it's like an easy thing to watch.
It's about repetition as well. Just constantly hitting people and they may not think that they're being influenced, but slowly you're kind of chipping away at them, aren't you really?
Yeah. The thing we were discussing the other day was like putting video game footage over like TikToks and Reels, because that's like a thing that like just
where you have
conditions
the two videos,
half and half.
Yeah, that's bizarre to me. My daughter watches that, and I'm like, what is this?
But that's the thing where you're
It's
just like your
just,
mind
I
switching
know.
off, but you're consuming the top half of whatever that is, and it could be whatever you want, and it's just like totally addictive. There's nothing you can do about that. Like there's something for me when I see that gameplay.
You're just watching this car roll down the hill and you're just there like, and absorbing all the speech at the top as well. It's quite dangerous really, because you could be absorbing anything.
But so like coming back to hypnosis, like that's a form of hypnosis.
Maybe that's what advertising is becoming, right?
Yeah, like we're constantly being, I feel like I'm doing a terrible job because my friend would put this so much more eloquently, but she's like, we're constantly being hypnotized all the time. What other people are wearing, or what we see, or what things we hear, or the news, or whatever. It's all just like subconscious kind of influencing like the whole time. And that is just what it is.
When you're creating your brand then, like going on that, you've got all of these other influences going around your head. You love streetwear, you know, you've got all of these other sort of brands that you love and all of this other stimulus that you've sort of backed on. How do you create something that was unique or like was very much
Nothing's
you?
going to be unique.
Yeah.
People like come out and they're like, what's going to make your brand different? I'm like, nothing, because there's literally 5 million like this.
Yeah.
So like the only unique thing is that it's mine.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, that's probably about it. Yeah. Or it's kind of more available to you, or it's unique to that person because it's in the colorways they like, or at the price point they can afford or want to pay. Like every brand can be unique to every single person in a different way. You know, whenever you see these business plans or whatever, they're always like, what makes you different? And it's like, it's not really that. It's like, who's the like audience that you're trying to appeal to, and what makes you interesting to them, I think is like a better question.
Way of doing it. Yeah, well, we had the same thing because like, and this happens with so many other businesses, and a lot of people that have asked me for advice about starting their own thing always say to me, like, I don't know how I'm going to make this different from someone else. And we said when we were looking at it, like, oh, ASOS is so similar, or this brand is so similar, or these people are stocking things in a similar way, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And we were going, is there a sort of a market fit for what we're trying to do? And then, like you say, you're just like, right, we want to do it slightly better. We want to have this sort of angle on it. You know, do you know what I mean? Like, and we can.
Yeah, I think it's just about like finding what you see your thing to be, and just really doubling down on that, and not trying to like appeal across the board to every like tick box that you can. And like for you guys and what you guys do, I was thinking about this on the way here for some reason. Like it's, to me, what you guys represent is like a really accessible way to get into streetwear. Like it's very unjudgy. It's not like hype beast culture. It's all about discovery. And I think like that I would just literally be like, that's enough. Why is that not like, that is enough?
Yeah, we think that as well. I was having a conversation with an entrepreneur the other day, and he was going like, what is the key thing you can do? One is exclusivity, i.e. you could say to people, you have to work with us. And I was really against that, like locking people in. Like I remember when we first had a conversation, I was just like, I don't want to lock anyone into anything. Like if you don't want to be on Aveste, like that's totally cool. I just want to have a relationship where we're friends, we get on, we want to help each other. Do you know what I mean? Like we want to build your business and that sort of thing. So exclusivity was something that I massively railed against. But yeah, like discoverability, I think, is the key thing for us. It's like being able to find cool brands that you would never have heard of.
Exactly.
And because let's think about it. There's not really many ways in the market right now for you to sort of discover new brands, really, if you think about it. Like how else are you going to do it?
It's either like influencers that probably haven't even found it themselves. They've just been approached or they've been paid.
Yeah.
Or it's like a third party retailer where their curation is, you know, so you might go into like a Selfridges and their curation is really good. And so you're going to find a streetwear brand that maybe you haven't. Yeah. You might have heard it, but you haven't like really seen it in person.
But that's quite exclusionary though, isn't it? Like going into Selfridges, I don't know, like, do you feel this way? Like, like I find like even going into Selfridges sometimes is like, right, I'm going to be paying X amount for a t-shirt.
Well, yeah, because it's already like in a certain like financial bracket.
Yeah. And so that was always the thing. Like when I'm going to those sort of stockists or big retailers, I'm thinking, can I even get in the door?
Yeah.
So, and the brands that we want to showcase aren't going to be in Selfridges.
Exactly,
well, they might be one day.
One day,
hopefully.
But also, that's the thing I was thinking about. I was like, you guys, it's like a thing of, you know, am I going to go on this site and I might find the next Palace or I might find the next Supreme or whatever, but like 10, 20 years before they get there.
Yeah.
And I think curation is still quite like, it's not valued as like highly as I think it should be, because like someone going, I like these things and I'm going to pull them together, or not even I like these things, but like I'm going to pull together like, all these new brands that people might not have heard of that literally are selling like 20 t-shirts a month.
Yeah.
Like discovery and finding new shit that like other people don't have is a big value to some people.
Yeah.
Not everyone. To someone else, it's like you go into Selfridges and you want to get something that has like social like gravitas. That's what it is. I've paid this much for this brand.
Yeah.
Now I wear it. Now I'm cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've always wanted to appeal to the people that like to wear stuff that other people aren't necessarily wearing.
Yeah.
Not out of I'm different, but I've always been like, especially with vintage shoppers, a bit like that as well. They know that what they're wearing is probably, a one-off piece, or, the other bits will be in landfill now. So they're probably going to be one of the only people wearing it.
Yeah, like you're appealing to, I mean, clothing's always about self-expression, isn't it? And it's just about like what version of self-expression is to you. And for you guys, I would imagine, the people that want to shop with you, it's all about finding something before other people find it, and not in a way of like, I'm going to flex, because these brands probably don't have any social gravitas right now. Like if you wear a not that deep jumper, like no one's going to be like, oh my God. Like they're going to be like.
You say that. Maybe. Some of Billy's friends were saying that to him. So,
well, that makes me feel good. See, I'm still won over by the, I want to be cool. Yeah. But like, I think, maybe you're appealing to an audience that is more, they might be older, because when you get a bit older, you're not as bothered about like, I'm like the coolest person. Or maybe, they don't have the kind of budgets to go into a Selfridges and like find stuff that way. So they want to find, like, I think it's just about working out what people value and then like just really like honing in on that.
What do you feel about the drop model? Like these brands that they they don't have a storefront open all the time. They do a big old drop and then they don't stock items again. Like just generally, how do you feel about that model?
Kind of like neutral about it. Like, I see how it really works from like a business perspective. I think it's an easy way to like build hype. I think it makes more sense on like supply and logistics.
Yeah.
And it gives people, coming back to sales psychology, that thing of like a deadline. Like
urgency.
You've got
I need to be there.
Sorry. Yes, exactly. Like I need to get this thing or it's going to go.
Yeah.
So for all those reasons, I think it's great. And also like from a sustainability side, you might also say that as well, because maybe you're not buying like loads and loads of stuff that then you have like half of it left over.
Yeah.
So I guess from me saying that, I probably like a drop model, but I also think, sometimes it's nice to just have things that are like the core things that a brand does. But I think what we tried to do with Not That Deep was just have a bit of both. So like we've got like core items that are probably like the more simple items that are always available, or some version of that will always be available, even if it's not exactly the same font, but it's like an updated version of the plain sweater.
Yeah.
And then have drops of stuff that is like a bit more like out there.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a good thing as well. Like if you want to try stuff that's a bit more out there and it's not going to be super mainstream, but you're not sure like, well, how many people are going to buy this or whatever. But I think for a lot of brands, it's just for hype, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I get a bit worried about that model just because I feel like, again, it's sort of exclusionary to people. Like if you're not there in that moment, able to be there and have the money in your bank account, do you know what I mean? Like, is it slightly exploitative to those people? Like, because the people that more often than not, the people that are doing the drop model are the people that have the audience, or they have some sort of like social credibility to be able to go and do it. And again, I don't often see those being really cheap items. Like when you're buying Yeezy Gap items or whatever it is, right? They're never cheap. I don't know lots of brands that are doing that drop model at a reasonable price point. Is that just what I'm seeing? Or,
but I think you're bringing in two things into the mix which are really hard to have at the same time in business, which is like thinking very ethically and like philosophically, and then what's good for commercial business. And they often don't go, or almost never go hand in hand. So that's that's what I was saying about when you're a brand owner, you're constantly having these like thoughts swirl around your head from a strategy point of view. What do I want this to be? What do I want to represent? Blah blah blah. And there's always that lure of like, but we could sell more if we did it like this, or we could make a bigger profit margin if we could do it like this. And that's like the capitalist world that we've all grown up in for like however long.
Yeah.
So, until things really start changing.
Yeah.
And there are some brands that are obviously coming out and doing really cool stuff that is a bit different.
Yeah. Do you think that content for you, going back to like that point of like, I don't know when I'm going to upload and that sort of thing, in terms of growing the brand, do you think that content is the most important thing now? Like more than paid, more than whatever you do, more than PR, like whatever you're doing, do you think that content is the key thing?
It's hard for me to say because it's the only thing I've ever known.
Yeah.
It's like that's always been my strategy, and that always would be and will be my strategy, is like storytelling through creative and content, whatever that looks like at the time, whether that's everyone being into podcasting, or then it's suddenly everyone being into video, or then it's there'll always be something. And I guess because I'm quite a creative thinker, that's always the route that's just the easiest to me. So if I was to ever go in and like work with a brand, that's probably always going to be where I'm like, this is the way to do it. Because it's all not all I know, but it's what I specialize in. So I think it's hard to then, there's obviously people that, you see these things, don't you? Like, oh, this D2C brand, you buy something off Alibaba and then you do these ads and then it's like this, that and the other, and you make X amount of money, but it's just never appealed to me. Yeah. Creating brands that like have cultural relevance is like always what's been like exciting to me. And I feel like that always gets done via some form of content, but that might be in events in real life. It could be anything, but I see that all as content. So paid stuff, I'm like a bit like.
I mean, you can make paid stuff out of the content that you produce at
exactly,
the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like for me, I'm always a big believer in that as well. Like for me, telling those authentic stories and actually like connecting with people in a more peer-to-peer way, like that's my dream, is that we end up having like actual conversations with people. Do you know what I mean? Like beyond even just this, is like actual conversations with people that follow us and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like we've had a lot of DMs recently of people that have gone like, we've watched the podcast and we liked this certain thing that you talked about. Do you know what I mean? And so
what
that's
are the things they've said?
Do you know what? We had an interesting one about sound engineering. We had
cool.
someone follow us and like go, oh, I really like the sound that you had in this, and where did you shoot and that sort of thing.
Oh, do they like the ASMR?
Oh, they're going to love it even more now, aren't they?
I mean, these mics are nice. So as someone who used to be a sound engineer, they do sound quite nice. Yeah.
Where did you produce music? Were you just doing it like at home, like when you were a producer, like what?
Yeah, like always. Yeah. Really? Always just bedroom setup, basically. Nice, like a laptop, an MPC or something like that, and then like a synth and a copy of Logic, and then bash it out.
That's all you need, isn't it, these days?
Oh yeah, you don't even need that really.
No, like, you can literally just use a laptop and Ableton or Logic.
Yeah, or not even. Like I kind of like 2020, I was like, I really want to get back into like making music again from like because I didn't really have.
Was that in lockdown?
Yeah, like just after that, like I was like, the work I'm doing at that time, I didn't have much creative like outlet at all. And so I was like, I'm going to get back into making music again, but I just want something where I'm not on a laptop. Like sure. I was just so sick of like being on a laptop. So yeah, I got an MPC. I can't remember what number it is now, but it's basically like you can literally do everything inside the MPC. Like you can sequence up a song, you can like put effects on it, you can mix it, like you can pretty much just do everything in the box. It's got all the pads.
Nice.
And just you don't even need a computer really.
Awesome. And where can we hear your tracks if we wanted
you
to?
You cannot hear them.
Oh,
like, in the storage of my computer.
They're not on SoundCloud.
Well, we keep being like, oh, we should just put them up, but like I think we're both quite, because we're like used to both make music, we're kind of like, oh, the mix isn't right, or like, you know, we're recording the vocals on like a really shit mic, or like the mic through the laptop.
Sure.
So I'm just like singing the vocals in, so they're like very, very rough around the edges.
Sure.
But I think it might just get to the point where like let's just throw them up on there anyway.
I think you should. I would definitely listen to them.
And Jake's never going to admit this, but Jake's also a producer.
Oh really? What kind of stuff?
Techno tracks, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Kind of like breakbeat techno tracks.
Okay, send me some.
Yeah, no, I'll send you my SoundCloud. But I haven't done it for probably a good year now. Yeah. Maybe over that actually.
It's hard, isn't it? You like
I've just not got enough time.
Yeah, you just, and I think you making music is like you kind of do need to be in the headspace of it.
Yeah, you do.
Like as soon as you're you get caught up in other things. You sort of like, I don't know. It's better like when you're on a roll, you kind of just
it's better when you want to do it rather than going, I'm going to make music today. What I used to find was I'd do a few tracks and then I'd be happy with it, and then the desire would almost disappear for a bit, and then that desire would come back about 3 or 4 months later, and I'd just get my laptop out without me even really thinking about it. So that's not come back for a while, because I think Aveste is at the minute scratching that kind of creative itch and time.
Exactly.
It's a time sink as well, obviously, isn't it? So, and podcasting now.
So on that, right, we've mentioned quite a few different things that you're interested in and that you've done, and you've got the family life and kids to look after. How do you literally fit all this stuff in? Like when you're doing not that deep stuff, like how are you doing it? Like you just finding a spare hour or two in the day and being like, I'm going to do this.
Well, when I was doing it, like, let's say if we differentiate between, I'd say a couple of months ago, I kind of took a step back from it. Like I said, I was like, I don't want to feel stressed out about posting content. Also, like the screen printing studio that I was using, like they've had to move and it was suddenly getting all more expensive and like all this stuff. So I was like, it's probably a good time for me to just like stand back and like reassess what I want to do next. And but before that, it was pretty much I'd just work on it like I wasn't working on anything else, so I could work on that like during the day. Nice. And then what else? I mean, all the other things, I don't know, just find ways to fit it in. Like none of these things are like that time consuming, really.
Well, learning Korean surely is time consuming.
Yeah, but I mean, is it like
how do you do it? Like, are you just doing like because you have lessons, right?
Yeah.
You have formal lessons.
Yeah, I have a tutor. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you just sit on Zoom and have a lesson?
Yeah, we'll have like an hour, like once or twice a week.
Nice. And why Korean as well?
So there's no reason why Korean. Everyone asked that question. The way it came about was I read this book by David Goggins. I can't remember which one it was. But he, obviously, I don't know if you know about him or you've read any of his stuff. He's very like macho. I don't know why I even read it really. But his whole thing is just about like you never know what the body or the mind is like capable of until you like keep really pushing it. And so I guess I just was like inspired by like reading this book. And I was like, what's something? And also I'd gone through loads of shit and I was in like a bit of a bad place, like mental health wise. So I was like, what would be good to just kind of just do something for me that wasn't, all my life was on social media. Everything was public. And I kind of had this realization of just like how hooked I was on that like dopamine of public like attention or people liking what I was doing or whatever. So I was like, okay, so if I step away from it and try and like live in the real world, Sarah, like not everything goes through Instagram, I feel like it would be a good thing to have something that's just for me.
Sure.
Where it's a challenge, but it's a skill and I can know when I have the skill.
Nice.
And so I was like, what could that be? And obviously he talks about running all these ultra marathons. I was like, I'm not fucking doing that. And I was already quite good with my exercise and stuff. So I was like, okay, well, I've always wanted to learn a language. Like I think, especially English people, like when you can speak a second language, I'm like props, because English people never know how to speak a second language. And I didn't want to learn a European language because I was like, I felt like that would not give me the kind of like fulfillment that like I wanted it to have, because I wanted it to be challenging. So then I was researching like Asian languages and which Asian language would be best. And obviously everything was like Mandarin, because obviously the Chinese are like just smashing it on everything. But then that actually, from doing research, it seemed quite difficult. And then I learned that Japanese have like 2 or 3 alphabets or something. And so then they were like, Korean is actually quite easy to learn to read. And obviously Koreans are they are just absolutely killing it with their export of culture. And obviously I love culture, I love music. And I was watching Squid Game at the time. Okay. So I was like, okay, well, this is just the clear, obvious thing then. So I'll just learn Korean. But I literally didn't really know anything about the culture. I knew a couple of the music people that had come out of it. I think I watched like the Blackpink documentary and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I would love to go there. But it was just one of the places in my mind that I was like, I'd love to go there one day. And then just as I've started learning about it and learning about the culture and the history, like it's just an amazing, amazing place.
Nice. And yeah, to come back to your point about the dopamine from Instagram and other apps, I think I definitely feel that at the minute, and you need to find something that replaces that. And it can be quite hard because these things give you a fucking lot of dopamine, don't they?
Yeah.
So trying to find something to replace that, you know, it's why now when people sit and watch films all day, you're sat on your phone, right? Because the film isn't giving you what your phone's giving you, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, finding something is bloody difficult.
Yeah, and I've started doing these like detoxes, which I used to always laugh at everyone for. I'd be like, why do you need that? But I'll just literally just delete Instagram off my phone for like I think I did it for about a month or something. Like in September, I think I deleted it like almost the whole of September, and I would only just go on my laptop to check like I hadn't had any messages or anything. And yeah, you just feel like it does slow you down a bit. Like it stops you just constantly like, I'm going to check it for no reason.
Yeah.
Like it's the weirdest thing. And as soon as you come away from it, you realise how weird it is. And when I had that, you know, I said I've really reined back on like what I share on socials and all that. And I would literally wake up and just think about my life through the lens of Instagram.
It's awful.
Which is meant like now I'm just like, what? Like everything was through the lens of like, what will be a good picture? What's good content? Oh, you know, even coming here, like if this was 2 years ago, I would like filmed every single bit of the way. Then I'd be here. Oh, hey, here we are. Sorry, guys, you're probably like losing out on loads of publicity. I've like not done anything, but it's breaking that thing of like everything's got to be documented, which is all we've been told for so long about, oh, if you're building a brand, everything must be documented. Thanks, Gary V. And it's like, just break that cycle. Like you don't need to. Now when I see my friends, they'll be like, oh, what have you been doing? And we can actually have a conversation about what I've been doing because they don't know what I've been doing.
I'm finding it really hard at the moment because we're obviously producing a load of content and like it's going up on TikTok. I really didn't want to get on TikTok like ever. And obviously we have to do it because we want to we want to talk about the brands. And it's just now on the phone and it's on a time limit, but the time limit is easily
turn that off.
It's easily, you know,
But this is the thing, when you're building a business, you have to do it. There is no like ifs or buts, there's no way around it. And that's why I was like, well, I don't want to give that up. As in, I don't want to give up my protection of my mental health to grow not that deep. Yeah. So if that means I have to stop making content, then that's fine. You want to be in a position where you can hire someone literally who's 21 and wants to spend their life on TikTok or making videos. And if you can't do that and you're not in a position to do it, then either you suck it up and you do it because the business growth is that important to you, or you realise that you're not going to have the business growth and like think in a different way. Yeah. So annoying.
It is so annoying because I completely am on that sort of like road right now. Like we just one, dopamine hits from being on Instagram because we're gaining followers or whatever, or that, you know, the posts are getting engagement, and you judge the success of a particular post based on how many likes it is and how many views it gets. There's nothing you can do about that. And actually, you know, we were chatting to Billy about this yesterday. There's almost sometimes not much you can do. Like a piece of video, depending on when you upload it, who's online, you know, how good it is in terms of the algorithm. It has nothing to do with you sometimes. Like it just goes out and it will be shit because it, you know, that's just a shit day on Instagram or whatever.
But, you know, that's just the game, unfortunately. And I think I just got to a point, and because I've gone through so much with all the businesses and personally, that I just got to a point where I was like, I just can't. No.
And plans for the brand in the next?
I've got some designs that I've been working on that I really like, that I think I might just like, when I can be bothered basically, or when I've got the headspace, I'll kind of put them into production and just do like a little run. Sure. Yeah.
I can't wait to see the designs, first of all.
Oh, I can show you. I'll show you in a bit.
Yeah, I'm excited to see them. But I have to say though, like in terms of the name, right? Let's go back to the name. How did you come up with the name, and how did it work for people?
So it's not that deep, I guess. Is just like a bit of a personal mantra. It's like whenever, I mean, I think firstly, anyone who knows me properly will kind of be like, oh, it's if there was a sentence that like summarizes Sarah's like attitude to life, it's probably that.
Yeah.
Like I'm quite nihilistic, I think.
Yeah.
It's
Ooh, really?
weird. It's weird because everyone's like, oh, you're into manifesting and like all this stuff. So they think I'm going to be really like uber like positive person.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time I'm just like, oh, it just doesn't, like, none of this shit matters. Like, we're all going to die. I literally...
Let's have a chat about nihilism.
Yeah.
I said to one of my friends is like a kind of fashion brand consultant, and when I started the brand I was like, this is like for really nihilistic people, and our slogan is so the name of the brand is Not That Deep, and then I was like, the tagline is we're all gonna die anyway, and I was like, I'm just gonna make loads of like t-shirts that say like we're all gonna die anyway, and she was like, I just think you might want to like
couple of skulls on it,
rain that one
like
in.
you might want to rein it in, and now I'm like, I feel like it's quite fitting, especially like now. But it's kind of like I find optimism in like nihilism. I know it sounds silly, but I'm like, it's all so much bigger than us. Like all the things we worry about are so silly. And even for myself, like I suffer with anxiety quite a lot. And whenever I kind of get into that headspace, like whenever I come out of it after, I'm always just like, why on earth were you so stressed like about that? It really, like, it's really not that deep. It really doesn't matter. Like, what someone on the internet thinks of you, or like, you know, oh, I made this mistake, or I did that, or whatever. It's like, you know, when you watch, have you ever seen that video online, and it's like, it starts off with Earth and then it kind of like zooms out, and then it's like all the planets come in and it just goes bigger and bigger, and then you're just like, oh, I'm like that on there, and then you think I'm that on there right now, and in like 100 years I'll be dead and like no one will care.
Yeah.
So it's just like, what? Why do we? I mean, I guess this is why the human existence has like evolved and lasted for so long, because we do care.
Yeah.
But it's me like playing with those two sides of myself, that are one side like super anxious and super like everything must be done exactly right. What if this happens? What if that happens? And then the other side of me that's like, just shut up. Like, it's really not that deep. Like, so it's almost like a mental health mantra.
Yeah.
For me.
But so many other people like identify with that mantra as well though. Like I feel like we were chatting with Billy about it yesterday, and he's going like, I say that all the time.
Yeah.
And like, loads of people do say that.
And
all
that's
the
the other thing. It was just like, it has cultural relevance.
Yeah.
So it's like a clear winner in terms of like a slogan.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Because it sounds kind of a bit cool and like nonchalant.
Yeah.
And people use it all the time.
Yeah.
And so when I go out wearing like the jumper or whatever, people will always come up to me and go, oh my God, my friend says that all the time. What's this? Where did you get that? I'm going to get her one.
Yeah.
So from like my commercial brain is obviously also like, it's a good slogan.
Yeah. Yeah. So going back, do you want to talk about nihilism?
Yeah, come on.
Oh, do you want to go into nihilism?
Because we have discussions about this all the time.
Yeah. I mean, so nihilism is obviously like, you don't think there's any kind of inherent meaning or good or bad almost in the world. It can mean that as well. And like everything is completely meaningless, and you can just go around being a psychopath if you want to interpret it that way. I don't think I think you mean it in the sense that stuff is to kind of let the small stuff go. Is that really what you kind of mean by like nihilism?
Yes,
or,
but I also
you're an atheist as well, would you say?
No, I'm definitely not an atheist. I believe there's like something, like I do believe in like signs and synchronicities, and I do believe that. And I do believe that, like, I really do believe in the law of attraction, because I feel like I've seen it happen for me. But I do also believe that like the line between like good and bad is very like blurry, and people's like public perceptions of things and how people are like trialed by public opinion.
The mob.
It's just like, you know, but you know, it's hard because whenever you have this conversation about between good and bad, they're like, well, Jeffrey Dahmer killed all these people and he's obviously a bad person. And it's like, yes, of course, there's certain things that like go beyond the line. But like, I do think it's all the time, it's just about different people's perceptions on things. What you might think is okay, I might not think is okay, vice versa. Like, I think we're too like in this like group think of like what is right and wrong. And it's just a lot of right and wrong or good and bad or any extremes, like one way, or what's like acceptable, not acceptable. everyone's going to have a different
Totally.
like threshold of that or what they believe.
Totally. And you're not good or bad forever. So you make one bad comment.
Exactly.
Are you now bad forever?
No.
You know, we're getting very much into the kind of cancel culture.
Well, this is the thing,
aren't we?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Like, I believe quite like fervently that cancel culture is like very, very dangerous.
I
Like
agree.
having someone that can't ever change their mind or can't have a view that isn't black or white. You know, there's like we're all living in
Or
a
you
grey
grow
world.
and evolve.
Yeah. It's just super, super scary, and there is a lot of cancelization that is happening across society at the moment, which I find just super, super scary. Because also, if it's not, say for instance, you believe in a certain thing, and then your hero gets cancelled.
Yeah.
And then it goes on the other side and you're exploiting and saying this other person should get cancelled. It's just like, what's going on here? Like, why can people not have a voice?
But also, why are you the voice on this?
Yeah.
Are you God? Like, what? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. There's always this like supposed moral high ground that is absolute bollocks. Like, if you ever put some of these people in the same position, they would probably make the same mistakes or worse mistakes or a different set of mistakes. Like, why are you out there as someone who's also the people that do the cancelling have almost always never had like much real lived experience of like any of the things they cancel people for, or they just have no opinions on anything, so they're like, I can float through life being like never cancel, because I'm like, because you have no opinion. Like,
or you just adopt an opinion because you've got a very surface level understanding of an issue, and you're like, oh well, the media's saying something's bad, so I'll just adopt that opinion. I'm trying really hard these days to not adopt an opinion on something until I've really until I've really looked into it, for example.
And all the different angles on it and all the different like journalistic takes on it.
Or, really
like,
try and understand the argument. You know, like we'll talk about the Kanye, we won't go into details about the Kanye West thing, but I was like, I'm going to go and listen to him speak with Lex for 2.5 hours. I caught the Piers Morgan bit, also going to read some articles, and after that then I'll kind of make my decision, so I'm not in a place of ignorance and just adopting a mentality that I'm not even sure I'd made
look
myself.
At this Kanye thing, right? The thing is, most people don't have 2 to 3 hours to listen to long form content with actual context and nuance, where someone can explain their ideas or their thoughts behind it in long form. People don't have the time, so they consume 10-second things, or it's almost like they filter things through influencers, because it's like, I trust that an influencer has watched this 2 to 3 hour thing,
which they won't,
and which they have not for sure, and they will share their opinion on it, so I will now adopt their opinion. So it's like things like anything to do with cancelling or like people's opinions on things and perceptions, it's like you need long form, nuanced context, and no one wants to watch it. Like even I want to watch this stuff, and even I had to be like, okay, I need to find like 2.5 hours to watch this interview. Like, where am I going to fit that in? Like, we're all talking about how do we fit everything in, and how do we, like, our own selfish needs are going to come first. So
got businesses to run,
got
children
to
look after,
like
languages
I've got to make
to
dinner,
learn. You know, how can we also be these moral, just beings that have perfect political understanding as well? It's not easy,
well, you
is
can't.
it?
So the best thing is to do, just stop judging everyone else. Then stop getting on Twitter and being like, oh no, this shouldn't happen, or I would never do it like that.
Don't have an opinion then if you can't know that opinion has been validated by your own research. Solved.
Have we solved it?
So we're saying don't have an opinion.
Or just be open and be like, I don't feel like I've looked at this from all the angles, or like I don't know, through my lived experience, my opinion would be X, but it's probably not the most like well-rounded opinion. A lot of questions.
As a mum, how would you like and sort of like are your girls like on social media?
Obviously, my oldest is,
Yeah. So in terms of doing that, I'm almost terrified of that world to sort of get into. How do you sort of like manage their consumption of content? Because Twitter right now, you can get anything. Like anything could be on there. And also TikTok, like, is TikTok restrictive? Like, you know, can you have some parental guidance? Like, how do you deal with that? Like, it's quite scary, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm also like, this is the world they live in. Like, they're going to have to learn how to do it. I can't like cotton wrap the kids until... The only thing I've noticed like with my eldest is, and the only thing that we've had to have like a proper conversation about is not taking things at face value, which kind of comes back to what we're talking about. So if she sees someone, so the thing was, it's Halloween and they're all like, people are sticking needles in these candies, like be careful when you get your Halloween candies. And she was like, oh mum, have you seen like people are doing this? And I was like, you always hear those stories. I was like, oh, people always do shit like that. I was like, let me see where you've seen it. And it was just the most stupid clickbait thing. Yeah. And I was like, but look at them. It was like a Mars bar with like a giant needle sticking out of it. And I was like, don't you think if you like, you'd see it had been stuck through the wrapper, or like you're not just, I was just like, what do you think about it? And I was like, you need to make sure that you don't, just because someone on TikTok said it doesn't mean it's true. Because they'll watch these like factual videos where it'll be like, the Titanic sunk on this blah, blah, blah day. And I'm like, it's just completely like wrong information. And that's the only thing we've really spoken about at length was like, I was like, I could go on there and if I speak with an authoritative voice and assertively, people believe anything you say. Yeah. Like I saw it in my own business before. Like it's so easy to sell because you just speak confidently. Like I confidently speak about this because I believe in it and I know it's going to work, but that's what's compelling. And then people go, oh my God, you speak so assertively and like you believe in what you're like, because most people don't believe in what they're doing.
No. Should we go from one controversial subject to another?
Yeah, should we go to, speaking of having our minds changed, shall we talk about Web 3.0?
Yeah, why is that controversial?
Because so it's controversial in the fact of we were looking at the space and like I think there is a lot of people that I don't know, like the NFT space, there's been controversies, there's been people ripping people off. Yeah. There's that in society, right?
Yeah, I suppose Josh and I are actually quite big advocates for the crypto space. We think that's great. NFTs, we get the kind of technology that underpins it.
We have NFTs, by the way.
Yeah, we do have an NFT, don't we? Probably got ripped off for it, but
That's life.
Yeah. So I'm convinced.
Did you get ripped off, or did you overpay because you were hyped?
We didn't. We didn't pay much. We didn't pay about anything. £2.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
yeah. It was just,
we got ripped off, guys.
Yeah, £2.
Also, this is. I have to say this while it's in my mind.
Sure.
People love to say I was ripped off, I was scammed, I was forced to buy this. No, you weren't.
No one made
you were bought into the hype. No. You believed it. It's your responsibility. Totally. I very much am an advocate for people's responsibility over their own self. Totally. And that's my view on things like Twitter, things like what you're talking about.
There's always been get-rich-quick schemes that have existed since
and you're going to sometimes get burnt.
Oh, buy this PDF document. Yeah. That was it, probably 20 years ago.
I think it's mainly controversial, though, because it is a new world. Like, it's a new world that, like, the majority of people don't understand. And the majority of people, like, don't even know what it is, I suppose.
Yeah.
And so you hear all these things. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, we should maybe start there. So before me and Josh really want to be convinced today in this, like of the utility of it in retail, because I'm not seeing it yet, and you might not know the answer to that. So I think maybe a good place to start would be, well, what is Web 3.0 and kind of what do you know about it so far and why is it relevant to streetwear?
I keep calling it Web 3.0.
Yeah, we've been corrected. We've been corrected. We have to keep calling it Web 3 now. But I've been calling it 3.0 as well.
Because they've always got. If you want to sound down with the kids, you just call it Web 3, not Web 3.
We go.
Okay, so sorry. The question I got fixated on that. What the question was? What's the utility?
What is it, first of all? Because
I mean, I'm like, okay. Let me caveat all of what I'm about to say in light of all the things.
Sarah's a complete expert in
I literally know nothing. I know nothing. Okay, I'm interested and I'm enthusiastic about it, and I have a basic understanding of how it works. That's it.
That's more than most people, including
and
me
it's
and
much
Josh
more than us.
Have. So start with.
So it makes me an expert to you guys.
Yeah, exactly. You are start with.
I guess. What it is just looking at the new way that the internet is going to work. So I guess if you look at Web 2.0, that's all about big corporations like Facebook and Apple and Google, owning your data, right? Yep. The whole idea of Web 3 is that it becomes decentralized and you control your own data and you control it's cutting out, in theory, all the middlemen. Yep. So they don't own the servers that hold all the information. All the information is on everyone's computers and that builds like a big decentralized network.
Got you.
That's like the very simple way of putting it, I guess.
That's the best way I've heard it described, and now I understand it a little bit more, because it's a minefield to me, because it comprises of so many different things in itself. If you think about it,
it's a minefield at the moment because it's new. It's like if we talked about the internet, you're like, well, the internet comprises like 5 million billion different ways that things work.
Yeah,
I think I was saying to my friend the other day who works in Web3. I was like, people, when you talk about Web3, people expect you to know and understand every different like outlet for that at the moment, or every different way that blockchain technology can be used. And it's like, I might understand NFTs really well, but I might not understand like what they call DeFi, decentralized finance, very well at all. But because it's quite a new thing and it's a small community, I think there is this idea that you need to know and understand all of it. And I think if you have that mentality, no one's going to come into it because it's scary. If you're just like, I just go in it like, oh, I don't know, I'll just like learn a bit by bit by bit.
It's a journey. We're on the Web3 journey. Definitely. I mean, we've already started the journey because we were calling it the wrong name. So,
but in terms of like, I think there's really interesting ways that Web3, or more importantly, like blockchain technology, which is basically mostly what Web3 is about, can be used in fashion and in streetwear.
Yeah.
There's so many parallels between streetwear and Web3 in the sense of like, if you look at this whole NFTs and drops thing, is very similar to like what happens in streetwear. This idea of like, oh, I'm going to get something and then I have it and it's rare. Or like maybe it's going to increase in value because I got this like dead stock pair of trainers, or like there's just a lot of parallels. And I guess that's what I'm mainly interested in is like, okay, so there's all these parallels between it. So how can we, like, who's doing that then in Web3? Like who's doing cool streetwear stuff? And also just from like, if you more think about, I'm obviously interested in how things are made and like, is it ethical, is it sustainable? I'm not perfect in this by any means at all, but like I'm interested in it. And I think blockchain, because of the way it can like track everything, you ideally should be able to track like where the cottons come from, where people paid a fair wage. And you can do really interesting stuff, like if you create a piece of art and you sell it as an NFT, when it gets resold, if this was outside of Web3, if it got resold, so you sell a painting to me for 100 quid because I'm like, oh, I feel like this guy's got talent. And in the next 10 years, your career blows up and I sell it for £1 million, you get no cut of that.
Nothing.
Whereas like with blockchain, and there is a whole conversation around royalties at the moment happening, but the way it has traditionally been spoken about so far is that you would have a cut on that. So you would retain like a 10% royalty. So I think it's good for creators as well.
Would that be possible in a physical item? So like, i.e., like if you are creating the not that deep neck sweatshirt, right?
Yeah.
And like, is that possible to do that? Like, is it possible to go, right, if this is resold?
Yeah, because you basically, there's this word they keep using called phygital, which is like you have a physical version of it, but it's linked to a digital.
Got it.
Like thing on the blockchain.
Token.
See, again, I'm like thing. I don't know what the right lingo is.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it would be like connected to, okay, so you bought that and the NFT for that lives here on the blockchain. So now if you want to then sell that on, you would sell them like together. So then I can track like who's owned it.
And how is that garment physically linked to a piece of digital cryptography?
See, this is like where it starts to get, so the things that I've seen so far is like people would put like a QR code or something like in the label or something like that, and so you get it and you scan it and then it sort of says like, okay, you've minted it, when they call minting, which means like you've basically just like put it on the blockchain and it's yours. But I guess there's people could buy the physical version and then never actually mint the NFT, so it's not like you have to do it, but you would maybe want to, because it would feel like it's got more value.
Show you the provenance, wouldn't it?
Yeah, or you could see who made it or something.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I mean, that's still probably open to some counterfeiting, I guess, with, you know, if it's just a QR code printed in a label. Is it completely bulletproof, or?
Once you've put it on the blockchain, the theory is that it's complete. I mean, this is also what's so good about decentralization, and like it's apparently very, very, very secure because of the nature of how it works. You wouldn't be able to like
you could you could copy someone's barcode and then, in theory, counterfeit an item, couldn't you? So that's why I'm struggling with that, tying the garment to the kind of cryptographic signature on the blockchain.
Well, no, because you'd be able to see as soon as you get it and you mint it as yours.
I would register it or something.
It's like, basically put it in your mind. It's like registered to you.
Yeah.
And no one can change that or hack that until you then sell it on to the next person. It's going to be associated to
what if I make an identical item? Let's say it's a brand like Balenciaga or something like that. If I made an identical item and, and then copied, I've got
it would be
item.
like whoever's minted it first.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also you're talking about counterfeiting in a physical, but in a physical sense. So
you can't counterfeit the digital signature. I agree with that.
But that's the thing is like the physical garment is the problem there, not the digital item. So to say that the digital item is the issue, and is fraught with counterfeiting is not true in that in that example.
But also that's already the case, isn't it? Like physical stuff's already like. So a lot of the stuff they're doing is around counterfeit, like how to solve counterfeiting, and they sort of do. There's stuff that a couple of brands that I've been looking at doing with the what they call NFC, which is different, which is near field communication, which we have in like all our phones and whatever. So that becomes embedded. I don't know whether it's a chip or whether it's a code or what, but that's also within the garment.
Sure.
So you could almost like if you go to. Like how you have to take your trainers to all these like authentication, like at StockX, they have to go through this whole authenticate. Like that would just be completely cut out. It's like, well, do you have the thing or not?
Clever. And then
so that's cutting out a whole middleman service. I mean, sorry if you're one of those people that like sniffs trainers to see if they're real, but
are they doing it on the smell test these days?
Oh yeah, that's like one of the that's like the main way they check.
It used to be like X-ray scanners, and now it's the sniff test.
No, there's a whole whole.
And I suppose brands would be really interested in this because they could make money off of reselling and the vintage market.
Well, right? Because they're holding on to like royalties.
Yeah, if you got 10% anytime it's sold on, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not all. I pulled 10% out of my mind, by the way. That's probably not what the percentage is, but of course. Then because you look at all these brands and you're like, your stuff's getting resold, and you get nothing from that. And obviously, the world is going more sustainable. It's all about buying secondhand or pre-loved or whatever they call it nowadays, dead stock stuff or like rental apps and all that kind of thing. So like, but for a brand, once you've sold it and you're not getting any benefit out of like things then becoming more sustainable, whereas that doesn't really make any sense, I don't think.
No. How did you get into this world? Like what was the first?
I think I'm always like just generally kind of interested in like random stuff. I'm interested in the markets and I try and follow like the financial markets, and because I get bored quite easily, I guess crypto is probably like a more exciting, like more volatile version.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe if I put £10 in now, I'll see like a quicker return.
Yeah.
So primarily through crypto first.
Yeah.
So I had money in crypto, like, I don't know, back in like 2016, 17, maybe even 16. No, not nice, because it went up and then it went right down. And then I was like, pull it out. I was like completely scared of it. I'd never put money into like the markets before. So I pulled it all out. So we didn't have any more. And then obviously I'm like, oh my God, we probably bought Bitcoin for like $6,000 or something.
Yeah.
Nice.
As in it would have been at like $6,000.
Yeah.
So obviously I wish I'd held on.
You would have retired.
Well, at some point, yeah. Probably never had enough in it to retire. Maybe like, I've got a few grand.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just kind of interested, but then like in and out, and obviously it went through a long bear market, so I kind of like wasn't really paying attention. And then when it all, when it came to lockdown and we were all sat at home and everyone started investing, and then there was like the whole big GameStop thing and like all that. So I just find all that stuff like really fascinating. And so, just kind of got into it through that really. And then I've got, friends who work in it. So I'm interested to hear what they're talking about. And then I think I'm good at spotting where there's gaps of things or like the timing is right for things. And I did it with when I did interior design and blogging. I did it with my online school, and I feel like I've seen that Web3 is still like a small thing. People don't really know much about it, and like you guys, we don't know what like things are called or what's this or that. And yeah, I think I just can see when there's like a gap to be like, this is a good time to get into something.
Yeah. I would say we're ahead of the curve in that we've invested in crypto before, like we understand how it works, but like that just shows you like we still don't know all of the functionality that is possible. And so the rest of the population is like years, like we're talking like 10, 15 years like behind.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, getting ahead of it. I think
I don't think you need to know the whole functionality.
No, that's true.
I don't think you need to. People still don't understand how the internet works. Like if I asked you, if you want to send money to me, like what's the process it goes through? You could probably take a guess, but like you or I don't know the full like chain of how that happens.
No.
So
I only learned recently about DNS and things like that. Like like it's.
It's a bit .com bubble at the minute, isn't it? There's a lot of people doing stuff. I'm always waiting for stuff to pop and then to see what are going to be the businesses that have something tangible at the minute. Because I'm struggling with tangibility.
I think that's where we are.
Yeah.
So I think there was this whole big hype, and I think then there has been this drop, and that was for all the mainstream. But like, crypto's dropped down or whatever. You lot were all so stupid. But for anyone who is interested in it, it was like it needed that to like get rid of all the like literally the .com bubble and see like who's left behind, who's actually creating these really interesting things, or like what are the real life use cases of these things. And it's still so early that there aren't really many like.
No, it's a lot of words.
Starbucks is probably like the best. Like Starbucks have done a really interesting like loyalty blockchain kind of program. But even the people that use it don't know that it's a Web3 thing. And I think those things are going to be what proves it in the long run. Like you don't need to understand what's happening. But if you know that, I've got a card and every time I buy a coffee, like my points go up and up and up. And then that gives me these perks. But if I wanted to, I could like then sell that to you and you could build on it, or you could like, I don't know. What you could do. Do you know what I mean? I don't know where it would go, but
yeah, and it's also I think we're not seeing things that can't be done otherwise yet by just normal tech. That's sometimes what I struggle with as well. I'm like,
I think we don't have the solutions that we need now, and they're still yet to be created. There's almost like you said, like do we have Amazon for Web3 now? No. It probably exists though. But
I
we
don't
know
think
about it.
It's not about there being new things.
Yeah.
A lot of it, I think there will be new things, but I think a lot of it is just about how do we make the systems better and how do we make it so that 3 or 4 big corporations don't own everything. Like that's more the vibe. Okay. So it's like, if you think about like when you buy a house, like the process you have to go through to buy a house and the amount of people that are involved, like if a house was an NFT and you could then like every time you upgrade the electrics on the house, that goes on to like the record for the house, or every time someone comes and like you repair the roof, that goes on to the record of the house. And if you then want to sell it to this person, like you don't need all the middlemen, you don't need a survey, you don't need all this, because you know everything that's happened to like that house since it was owned in the first place. Or the legal contracts are like shared in a decentralized way. I think there's just lots of ways where like the systems are really old and clunky. Yeah. And it's more about like refining that and making it decentralized rather than it is like, what's some shiny thing that's going to come out of it? But the shiny things will come too. Is my view.
So we're getting, excuse me. So we're going to get nothing new, but we're just going to get the things that we've already got done better.
I think you'll get new
and
as well.
Safer and maybe cheaper. Maybe easier as well.
I agree.
And people will move to easier, cheaper and safer. You'll see mass adoption when that starts to happen.
Yeah.
Right, I get it now. I'm more convinced by Web3. How's
good? I'm glad.
And you're writing the newsletter as well?
Yeah.
Is that fun? Do you enjoy that?
Yeah, it's good. I've only done like one so far, so I've got another one to do tomorrow. But yeah, I feel like it's almost like I'm doing it for myself in a way, because it's like I find it interesting, and I feel like sometimes if you don't repeat back information or have to explain it to other people, you don't really learn it.
Yeah.
So like even me having to say this to you guys is like, it's helpful because I'm like, what am I trying to say and what are the points that are interesting?
Yeah, they say once you can teach something,
exactly,
then you know it, right?
Exactly,
so,
yeah.
Oh, wicked. And do you find it easy to pull the content together for that? And I suppose the people that as well that are consuming it aren't experts themselves, right? You're not sending it to a load of professors in Web3.
No. It's very much aimed at like people who are exactly like you guys. Like we're into streetwear.
Definitely.
And we've heard about Web3 so
we're
it's
interested.
Like, is there a way that these two worlds kind of collide? And so it's probably going to take a while to get like a bit of an audience for it. But again, it's sort of that thing of like not trying to be the first, but just getting in at the right time where it's like, okay, is there a voice at the moment in Web3 talking about streetwear and Web3? Like maybe not.
No.
Or if they are, they're brands or companies that are inside of it trying to have a company, but is someone talking about what's happening?
Sure.
So like, you know.
And it would almost, it would be good to be a first adopter if you have the knowledge as well. If the time comes when there is some real utility in it, of course it would be good to be
I would love
curve,
right?
I'd
love to like, I definitely want to do some stuff with Not That Deep like in the future where it connects to Web3, but I just don't have the knowledge and I don't have like the resource at the moment to like know how to do it. But there's companies that are doing it.
Well, Sarah, it's been an absolute pleasure. We'll have you on again, that's for sure. Where can people find you and find Not That Deep?
On Instagram,
obviously,
with like no updates. But it's at Not That Deep Store, and the same on TikTok. And then the shop is notthatdeepstore.com. So yeah, can go there, have a look, or you can just find me on Instagram and then talk to me.
Legend. And yeah, we'll definitely get you on again, and definitely maybe with Jason as well. Be great to get you both down.
He loves the chat, so
he loves the chat.
This would take 4 hours if it's me and Jason here. Like it would
That's
literally
fine.
take 4
Do they do 4-hour bookings? We can get
definitely do 4-hour bookings.
Like, I don't know if anyone wants to hear 4 hours of me and Jason like go. Rah, 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 rah.
Hey, put it on the background.
I know.
We
the
fall asleep to it.
conversations we have. Maybe me and Jason should start a podcast. Yeah, like a bedtime podcast. It's just talking about really boring shit.
Why not?
If it gets people to go to sleep, it's a success.
People have only ever heard the first 5 minutes and then they fall asleep.
Excellent. Well, that's that.
Love it.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Clap.
Yeah, clap.